Welcome to the College Investor Audio Show, where we talk about the biggest issues impacting millennial money, from student loan debt to side hustles to building wealth. We will show you how to get out of debt so that you can build real wealth for the future.
Hey there, welcome to the College Investor Audio Show. Kind of a different take on things because we live in a different time right now, if you haven't noticed. My goodness, what a time to be alive. So President Trump just recently declared a state of emergency to combat the coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic in the United States. So for borrowers with student loans, you might be going, what am I going to do about this? It can be a challenging time for you, and it can only get worse if there's a nationwide quarantine or even a lockdown. So with all the talk about shutdowns, closures, having a stable income to pay your student loans can be a bit of a challenge. And there's also another thing to think about is the misinformation that's going on. What is and isn't applicable for student loan borrowers? So let's break it down. What the emergency declaration means for your student loans, as well as what will happen if we move to full quarantine or a government lockdown. So here's a little bit of something for student loan payments. As of today, you must make all your student loan payments on time. There is a lot of misinformation going around on social media that Trump is waiving student loan payments. No, this is false. You must still make your student loan payments. I cannot say this enough. Please, if you fail to do this, your loans will go in delinquency and then go into default. Student loan default is one of the worst financial situations you can find yourself in. Your loan will instantly grow by 30%. You'll face wage garnishments and tax offsets and a whole lot more. Don't let this happen to you, please. There are some groups advocating for a suspension of student loan payments, but as of today, this podcast right now, this hasn't happened. Okay, so let's look at some options if you've lost income due to the virus and closures or quarantine and lockdown. There are some options for help with your monthly student loan payment if you've lost income because of all this stuff going on. Number one, you can get on an income-driven repayment plan. The first and likely the best approach for you is to get on an income-driven repayment plan like now. Now, this means right now, not tomorrow, not in a week. We're talking ASAP. The reason that this is the best approach is really simple. If your income is low or even nothing, your monthly payment under these plans will also be $0 a month. Since your monthly repayment is tied to your income, this can give you the flexibility to not be burdened by student loan payments while you deal with your income loss. It's important that you certify your income based on the alternative method, and you would send in a letter that says you lost your job and currently have no income or only unemployment income. You can apply for an income-driven repayment plan by calling your lender or going online to studentaid.gov. Again, that is studentaid.gov. So who should use this approach? Most borrowers, really, especially those who are going for public service loan forgiveness. Here's the second option, unemployment deferment. A lesser option, but still viable, especially with the waiver of interest, is to ask for an unemployment deferment. You can get an unemployment deferment for up to 36 months, but you must recertify your unemployment status every 6 months. You also have responsibilities under this deferment. You must diligently be seeking, but maybe unable to find full-time employment in any field or at any salary or responsibility level, even if you're not eligible for unemployment benefits or if your eligibility expired. You must also be registered with a public or private employment agency, if there is one, within 50 miles of your permanent or even temporary address. Finally, if you are requesting an extension of your current unemployment deferment and you're not providing documentation of your eligibility for unemployment benefits, you must certify that you have made at least 6 diligent attempts to find employment on the most recent 6 months. It's important to note that interest will still accrue while your loans are in deferment in general, but currently, student loan interest is waived for the duration of the emergency declaration, which is nice. So when you combine the waiver of student loan interest, as we'll get to in a second, this may be a good move, but it does have its drawbacks. If you're going for public service loan forgiveness, PSLF, you must be making eligible payments. If you use this deferment, this period won't count towards PSLF. Wow. However, if you go on income-driven repayment plan, even those $0 payments will count towards public service loan forgiveness. So who should use this approach? Borrowers who just need some short-term relief and aren't eligible for PSLF. Here's number 3, forbearance. You can always request a forbearance. Now, this should be the last resort, and doesn't really make sense for most borrowers, but it's the easy way to stop payments immediately. There is some financial planning benefits that can be gained from a hardship forbearance right now, but we use with extreme caution and really special planning. So, as part of the emergency declaration, Trump waived student loan interest for the duration of the proclamation. As of today, we don't know when that will end, but estimates are anywhere from 2 to 6 months. That's okay relief for borrowers, but nothing amazing. It's also really confusing, to say the least. And here's why. Here's why it's confusing. The waiver applies as follows. Loans owned by the federal government for the duration of the declared emergency. So here's where it gets tricky. Loans owned by the federal government is vague for most borrowers, and many don't know who owns their loans. Here are the following loans that are owned by the federal government. All direct student loans, basically all loans issued since 2010, some Perkins loans, and some FFEL loans. The sum for the Perkins and FFEL loans is challenging because in the Great Recession, the Department of Education purchased some loans back from private lenders, if you remember that. Now, these loans that were purchased qualify, but most will not, since they are held by private banks now. So, how do you tell? Well, you need to look on your Student Aid NSLDS file, or you can use a guide that we have to find out who owns your student loans at thecollegeinvestor.com. This waiver will apply for the duration of the emergency, which, as of right now, we don't know when the end date will be. It's also important to remember that this waiver doesn't eliminate payments. I'm going to say it again. I know I sound like a broken record. You still must make your full payment each month. It's just that your payment will now be full principal payment, not interest, which is nice too. Finally, it may take your loan servicer about a week to process this request from the president. However, the Department of Education has said that it will be retroactive and take effect March 13, 2020, regardless of when they get it implemented in their systems. Potential hacks to leverage this for debt payoff. Now, this is an interesting point. The waiver of student loan interest does allow for some interesting financial planning aspects for paying off your debt faster. Since your student loan interest is waived, all of your monthly payment goes to principal. So, here is hacking the debt snowball. If you're running a debt snowball method to pay off your loans, you might consider throwing more at your larger loans in the short term. Since you'll be able to make significantly more progress due to not having interest on them. Now, that could be a huge win for borrowers who are diligent about paying extra. Hacking the deferment or forbearance. Here's the more interesting one. Asking for a forbearance and basically seeing your federal debt frozen. You can then take that extra cash you were using for the monthly payment to save, invest, or eliminate other debts. Could be especially helpful to take that extra and pay it towards private loans who, as of now, aren't offering any special benefits to borrowers. This is risky, but this is also likely the start of a recession, higher job losses, and maybe more, but this could be an opportunity to beef up an emergency fund, eliminate credit card debt, or even invest to max out an IRA, which is very important. Let's talk about private student loans. So as of now, none of these options apply to private student loans, including in-school private loans and student loan refinancing loans. However, if any lenders do announce they are offering programs or waivers of interest, we'll be sure to update this page immediately. So, issues for borrowers still in school. Here's one final unexpected issue. It has the potential to arise for borrowers who are still in school. Specifically, some schools may simply end the school year right now, in March or April. So if this happens, your end date gets reported to your student loan servicer, who then implements a 6-month grace period for your student loans. Eek. This normally wouldn't be an issue, as the grace period on student loans is 6 months, so assuming you enroll in the fall, you'd never enter repayment. But if you get a March out-of-school date, instead of your first payment being due in November, could be due in September. Something to think about and assess as the situation progresses. And here are some final thoughts. This information is evolving as the situation around the corona COVID-19 virus, quarantines, potential lockdowns, all that stuff changes, it seems like by the minute. We will do our absolute best to keep all of this stuff updated as quickly as we can. You can find this article that we're talking about right now on thecollegeinvestor.com. Just type in these words, quarantine lockdown, and you'll find this article. We'll keep this updated as everything shakes out. Because we just want to come alongside of you and eliminate as much stress, worry, and anxiety as we possibly can. We know this is hard. It's unprecedented what's going on right now. We get it. But hey, if we work together, we'll get through it. We are resilient. We can do this. Thanks so much for stopping by today. Stay safe, wash your hands, and don't touch your face. It's amazing how hard that is, isn't it? We'll talk to you again soon.